Our Hangout is live. Hi, everybody in Cyberland. This is Patty Dominguez here with Boss Free Society on our weekly Google Hangout show that we have every Monday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. And today we have the amazing Adam Pressman, who is a business builder. And we just had a small conversation, and his statement, his title says, I've helped a number of folks become millionaires, and I'd like to do it a few more times. So great call to action. Want to hear more about it. But before we start, do want to go through a little bit about who we are. So Boss Free Society, the community, the mission, the vision is to help people live extraordinary lives and then attracting the right prosperity partners to make it happen. We live in the solution, pay it forward, and then choose to live a life by design. So we believe that serial entrepreneurship, people like Adam, are definitely the type of people who are choosing to live their life by design. And let me give you just a little bit on his bio. It says 10,000 hours, as everybody knows. Malcolm Gladwell wrote that really awesome book, Outliers, where he talks about expertise being developed over time as a result of somebody finding their niche and spending 10,000 hours of practice in it. And Adam Pressman has been coined as a 10,000 hours in his space, and he spent 10,000 hours helping people make useful sense of complex systems and technology and organizations. He is comfortable in a boardroom or server room with over 25 years of IT experience that routinely exceeded expectations. So he does have that corporate background as well as a proven record as a skilled public speaker, an authority in information technology, an excellent facilitator. What Mr. Pressman has done is build self-sustaining teams and help clients grow revenues while improving alignment of their strategy. But as I take a look at Adam's background, he has the most incredible background, because I have here singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist of the New Dominion Band, IT background. Now you are currently the president and CEO of SuccessRite. So Adam, how do you have time to do all this, and what's your secret for time management? That's the first question I want to know.
Thank you, Patty. I appreciate the kind words. The secret to time management is that there is no such thing. We all have the same amount of time, and what it really boils down to, and one of the lessons that I try to live in my own life and impart into those who I serve, is that if you act with integrity to what it is you seek to do, then putting aside those things that are not going to help, that are not going to advance you on your mission, just becomes easier. We all have the same amount of time. No one can manage it. It really comes to understanding up front what's important so that you do that and only that.
And so that said, because you have such a diverse background, having been in IT, how did you transition from, say, corporate America? Is the singing and songwriting more or less a hobby to you, or is this something that you played in terms of monetizing your interest in being in a band and being a songwriter?
I love David Lee Roth's quote where he says, "We don't look this way because we play rock and roll. We play rock and roll because we look this way." I put myself through college playing in a rock and roll band. It's always been important to me to have fun and monetize it. I would say it's a hobby. That is a tough life. I've lived it, and to be a professional musician, talk about taking up all of your time. So I'm delighted to be able to perform as often as I want, and most importantly, not when I don't. And I found it to be a very good way to keep me young, keep me fit, and most importantly, keep a sense of creativity and fun and vigor in the oftentimes not so vigorous or not so invigorating world of IT and organizational development.
Excellent.
So due to that, since music is one of your passions, how have you been able to translate, roll over that passion into being an entrepreneur?
Oh, it's such a good question because of the answer I'm going to give. At least I think so. When you're a musician, you are forced into, and delightedly so, in fact, that's why we do it, you're forced into, particularly as a songwriter, a collaborative environment. You can't do it all alone. It's getting closer to the point where you almost could, but you really need the creative input from so many people. You need so many people to help get your message across, to play it, and to move the infrastructure from place to place when you're playing in a band. So, and then of course, there's all the creative influences that you have in any art project. Any artist will tell you that what they see coming out of them, reflected by others, actually makes more of an art than they can do themselves. So, forced into a collaborative environment, you learn to take good care of the people who can take care of you. You learn what's important, what's not important to push aside. We talked about that regarding time. And you learn to deal with a wide variety of types of people to help motivate them toward a mutual vision, just getting the album done, or getting the business built, or getting the product shipped. Whatever it takes requires the same kind of high integrity motivation, everybody being clear of what's expected of them, and some accountability to hold them to that. So whether you're writing a new song or building a $20 million business.
That's great.
Awesome.
So, yeah, and you clearly sound like a person that is left brain and right brain, which is typically not the case. Typically, I always equate IT professionals, kind of that left brain, and you're that singer-songwriter performer with very right brain. That said, what do you feel like? Do you have a mantra for your life? You have such a diverse background. That one quote that drives you.
One quote that drives me. That's a tough one in terms of the context. The quote that drives me is, to paraphrase Schweitzer, is you really haven't lived until you've helped bring out the best in someone else. There's a number of quotes along the same line, but it's one on my website that you can see. But I'm trying to think of something in regard to the music and the IT connection. Really not all that dissimilar if you think about it. People in IT like to build things. And sometimes they're fabricating them out of thin air.
Yeah.
So it's the thing with music. I've found a number of very musically inclined mathematicians and IT professionals. I don't think you have to be either of those to build a successful business. I just think in my case it exposed me to an early appreciation that I couldn't do it on my own, and that I was responsible for my own success, which I think resonates well with your message in the Boss Free Society. One of the cautions is there's no such thing as a Boss Free Society. You may not work for one person, but you do exist to serve someone in some way. And the sooner you get a handle on who that person is and how you serve them, the more delighted you're going to be to have that person as your boss, because they will appreciate it and you will appreciate the opportunity to serve them.
So being a servant leader, or having that as a foundational principle, it sounds like is what drives you. How did you discover that? Did you have a mentor in your personal or professional life that kind of helped you to fine-tune you to where you are now?
Oh, many, and it's a continuing work. Any coach will tell you they love their coaches. I've had a number of mentors over the years. I guess to answer your first question, when you're singing a song, at least for me, I don't gauge it in the quality of the pitch and whether or not it resonates real well or the topic of the lyrics. To me, it's seeing the light in somebody's eyes when they get it, when they see, and the message is transferred, and they love the song. They love the playing. So everything I do, I look for validation, and is it working for someone else? So I get to see the light in somebody's eyes when I'm coaching, when they finally found a way to get past that problem that's keeping them from getting to great from good. Do I get to see the light in somebody's eyes when they've shut off their the mortal coil of corporate America and are stuck out on their own, and they've made the very first paycheck? or better yet, they've hired their first person to share in that dream. That's the validation. And I guess because I was a performer, I started pretty good early. And of course, in both music and in business, I've had dozens of tremendous mentors able to help me out, and thankfully I still do.
Oh, that's amazing. So talk to me, because I found out on your LinkedIn profile that you said, I can't remember the quote exactly, but I thought it was so compelling as opposed to other titles that I see for other people on LinkedIn, where you say, I've helped a number of folks become millionaires, and I'd like to do it a few more times. So how do you do that? That's the magic question I'm sure a lot of people want to hear about tonight.
Are you speaking of I've made a number of people millionaires? I'd like to make a few more?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
It sounds so intriguing.
Talking of mentors, that was one. And one of my mentors, Don, suggested that I put that in my LinkedIn profile because, like everyone else, I was looking at LinkedIn as a resume, as what I had done, and particularly in the world that you've already alluded to, Patty, where I've sort of been, I'm not a serial entrepreneur, I'm a parallel entrepreneur. And I've been doing a lot of things at the same time. I wasn't really sure what to put in that small amount of space. So I got something very sales-worthy from my mentor, and I'll tell you, finding out what it is your target market seeks and putting it in that headline is probably going to get you dozens to hundreds of new connections a week on LinkedIn.
I love that tip.
Yeah,
I love that tip.
I do too. Excellent tip. Thank you. Excellent. So tapping onto that, what other tip would you give a new entrepreneur?
Probably the thing that's going to be most important in the next several years, I'm a big fan of macroeconomists like Jeremy Rifkin. You clearly saw I read Gladwell because it's in my bio. But his latest book on the social common, on the collaborative commons, called Zero Margin Cost. It's just a huge textbook that explains it in more detail. But frankly, the best thing you can do if you're starting out in business is to find the 5 to 10 people who believe in your product, service, or cause with the same conviction you do. I don't want to say passion, it's an overused word, but that they can demonstrate some commitment, perhaps in a way that's different than yours, in that same mission that you have. I think it's less about the idea than it is about the team, because it's always been less about the idea than it is about the execution. And as we've just been talking about, you can't bring something like this to fruition without a dedicated and effective team behind you. Behind, maybe it's only 1 or 2 people at first, but eventually it's 10 people, probably not a whole lot more than that as your inner circle, to really help advance what it is you seek to do will probably be the fastest way to success for you.
That's so brilliant. So is this something, that magic of 10 people, because a leader is positioned to develop up to 10, or is this the mission? In other words, if you're doing this grassroots and you're starting new and you want to develop yourself as a leader, somebody that people follow, has it been your experience that it's that the number of that 10 is where the tipping point happens? Or talk to me about that. I mean, how does one get from a novice leader into really creating other leaders?
There's a great quote from The West Wing, which of course means Aaron Sorkin, that says, "Without a follower, a leader is just a guy taking a walk." Without that team, without people behind you, figuratively or literally, you don't really know the value of your idea. You don't know the value of your effort. You don't know whether it's working. Just like when, as you know, a keyboard player coming up with a tune, is that going to work right when we put bass drums and guitar in there? Yet another music metaphor. I apologize for that. But
no, it's great.
The point is,
awesome.
Social capital. When you're a solopreneur or starting out as an entrepreneur, you don't have any real capital, right? Nobody's got any money. So what you do is social capital. And the great thing is now, any time in history, converting social capital to real capital is within the grasp of most people who are committed and can put together a committed team. So that, why 10? Interestingly enough, you can look at everything from Margaret Mead to Mark Zuckerberg to validate the fact that our brains are wired to have a tribe of about 150.
Oh, wow.
That's about the number of friends on a friends list. That's about the number of people in a tribe 50,000 years ago. It's funny how the brain hasn't changed all that much. So with a max of about 150, I like to think of 10 as a good point for your inner circle, because they, of course, have their 150. They can really begin to connect you with the resources that you need to develop your idea into something executable and profitable, and then work with a community that's larger than that to make it sustainable. Because if it isn't executable, profitable, and sustainable, it doesn't matter how good the idea is.
No, that's awesome.
Does that answer your question, Patty?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so then at what point do you figure, because entrepreneurs fail forward, right? So those failures create experiences, and it's all how you see that, right? So at what point do you take out an idea and then you fail, and you fail again? How many times do you fail before you let that go? Or is it a point where the people that you think are following maybe are just not the right kind of people that you want to follow? At what point do you stick with it and have this stick-to-itiveness to continue the mission? I mean, how do you know when to say, you know what, this isn't a good idea anymore? Or do you keep forging ahead? Do you have any insight on that?
Well, you've basically asked two questions, as I understand it. One is, when do you know the people have failed versus, or as well as, when do you know the idea has failed? So the latter's a lot easier. Again, if you can't see an easy path to execution, making it real, if making it real doesn't help in terms of profit or in terms of the mission, it may be a nonprofit organization simply trying to achieve a particular social good, but if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't matter how good the idea is. And then lastly, is your success in this idea going to prevent a future generation from being equally successful in their idea because of the resources you consumed? Those are sort of my broad benchmarks. I love a tool. I don't know if in my bio we didn't mention it, but I run a new company called Crowdfunding Roundup, and it's designed to help people leverage a new capital model. And I refer people to a great tool called the Crowdfunding Roadmap that will help an entrepreneur figure out, do they have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed? Are they know what the product, service, or cause is, or its destined audience? I remember what Drucker tells us that all businesses exist to attract and maintain customers. Therefore, everything may be measured by them, not by us. Again, the boss-free society kind of makes it sound as if, okay, you're going to get to do what you want. Oh, no.
Right.
You're going to be doing what it is. That's why I make that quote very clear and very succinct. I exist to serve so-and-so by doing so-and-so. Now, it's what I'm going to do. It's not like a choice for me. So putting together maybe people who don't think exactly as I do, although they do understand how I think, to help me get validation, to help me with areas in which I don't see clarity that they do. Perhaps they see joy in that which I toil. But there's always some reason to bring somebody into the team to fill a gap. At the same time, there should be enough of either a personality, either amongst one or others of the team, to keep everybody focused on mission. Diversity for diversity's sake is not something you should strive for. In fact, despite what I just said, striving for diversity should never be your reason. It just so happens that when I look at a team that's been successful in a nonprofit mission, when I look at a team that's delivered an award-winning service, when I look at a team that's delivered a killer product, the thing they have in common is that they're not all alike. But it isn't because they started trying to be that way. It's because they found the people necessary to suit the needs of the customer in those personalities. And it just so happens that those personalities demonstrated a broad field of thought, a broad field of experience.
That's awesome.
That answer.
Yes. Shawna, you're on mute. You're trying to ask.
Sorry. Was there one or two common denominators in all of that?
Yes. I have a little math formula on my website. You can see a little cocktail napkin stretch about the formula for success. Sounds very highfalutin, but it basically comes down to skills, which is how to do something, plus knowledge, knowing when to do it, are surrounded by parentheses and multiplied by attitude. We've all seen somebody who didn't know the job but really wanted to please and had a great attitude. And we've all seen people who were experts but didn't care. Which one do you want on a team?
Yeah.
I think attitude, having that habit of thought, that's all an attitude is. It's a habit of thought that I'm going to be successful because people don't fail. People quit. Systems fail, machines fail, ideas fail, but people quit. So if you get somebody who's not going to quit, no matter what, they're behind you, that's probably the most important denominator to have. And boy, there's a mess in numerators. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a great question, Shawna.
Awesome.
So then in your experience, you say you've created a number of millionaires, and what is it that makes somebody a candidate to become a millionaire in your eyes? Because you've clearly gone through the vetting process. I happen to think, education is good, but I look at energy and hustle, which is almost more important than the paper attributes, right? And I say that cautiously. I have both in terms of the education, but I've seen that it doesn't necessarily equate just because you got a master's degree, your level of success or the potential that you have in order to become a millionaire. So what do you think about that? Because you've actually been on the ground developing millionaires, what are those attributes that you almost, at this point, I imagine you can see in someone and say, oh, that person's got it. They got it. And I guess, what is that it?
I really wish I had that crystal ball, or rather the magic 8-ball we shake, and that comes a little triangle that says, you're a winner.
Right.
If there's somebody who can do that, it isn't me. First of all, remember that was marketing speak, and almost everybody is going to be a millionaire if you just counted as how much money's come in and how much money's gone out. I've been a millionaire several times over. I don't have $1 million now, but I like to buy expensive sailboats. So the thing is, it isn't the millions that's important. It's can you set up a goal for yourself and achieve it? And can I look somebody in the eye and see that conviction? Again, I want to use that term, passion. Can I see that conviction that somebody has in the way they work? Yes, I can. Does it mean they have every letter after their name they could possibly get? No. Does it mean they work 80-hour weeks? No. What it means is they live by that sentence I mentioned earlier. I exist to serve whomever by doing whatever. That exists to serve. Okay, you know what an anteater exists for, right? He exists to eat ants, okay, and make little anteaters. Okay, that's nature at work. And the closer we can get to nature in business, the better, in my view. I'm what we call a real conservative. Why do anything new if nature's already got it? If everything you do, the integrity of everything you say and you do, and everyone around you is obvious, that you are convicted to this cause, that this is what you do for this group, then it's obvious to people. And it really doesn't matter what you have. It's useful in some fields, mostly to provide validation for others. It's hard to know a really good brain surgeon looking at it. Okay, so yes, we certainly need to have those therapies. In fact, some of the best brain surgeons I've seen, I don't know, to look at, but if so I'm certainly not going to disrespect anybody who pursues an academic or collegiate education to the extreme. But remember what you're doing it for. And I think if you do that, and I advise young people going into college all the time, know why you're going. You have a 70% dropout rate in freshmen in universities these days. If you go into college knowing what you're going to be doing, exactly what you're going to be doing, where and for who, in 5 years, and don't think that's impossible. Not only is it possible, it's essential. You're going to get through college much better than you ever did. What you ever would otherwise. That metaphor conveys in the business environment too. If you haven't read it, I champion anybody to read. It's a hard read because it's an old read, but Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Written in 1938, and yet there's nothing in there that's out of date. It's all about being driven. It's all about the guy who will let nothing get between him and his goal.
Oh,
and if you do that, whether it be in academic education, whether it be in pursuit of the love of your life, whether it be in pursuit of a record deal, whether it be in pursuit of your first $1 million as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing's going to get in your way, and in order to make that a reality, because you can't do it alone, you're going to be stepping on, putting together hands with someone who's going to push you up over the walls in your face. You have to do it that way.
It's true.
Yeah, excellent, excellent.
And I get a record.
So tell us about an entrepreneur that inspires you, or that you emulate, or that you really respect for their accomplishments.
That's an interesting one, because there's so many in each of several fields that I admire. Interestingly enough, I would say my dad, who I probably don't admire for anything else, but he was able to do something with the American audio industry at a time when the Japanese audio industry, Japanese were going to eat our lunch, and he was able to carve out a niche and do something really impressive there. So that was one. My first business partner, who was a cattle rancher, and he saw the writing on the wall about network security, and he got me into network security at an early age. He said, once we were able to connect everything, then you have to build up fences. My favorite quote from him was about taking care of your customers. He put it, a well-tended herd doesn't leave if the fences fall down.
Mm.
Being if you put a lot of education into security, you don't need as many fences. So he was an important mentor. I meet people every day that I would call a mentor, right? And I do that deliberately. And again, from the Napoleon Hill book, you'll hear about the concept of mastermind groups. This could be any grouping of people. They don't necessarily have to be more successful business people than you, but they do have to be people to which you can ask questions and get answers you probably wouldn't come up with on your own. And I think surrounding yourself with people like that will make you, like me, unable to point to any one person who I pattern myself after.
Yeah.
It's just, there's only one me, and I'm glad for that, and so is a lot of other people. And I'm going to make the most of that. And I encourage everybody else to do the same. Don't try to be somebody else. At the same time, the best mistake to learn from is one you didn't make. So if you can keep keep a close eye on what's going on in your industry or a closely adjacent industry, something that's almost what you do and is doing some, facing some of the same challenges, I think you can learn at least as much as you would if you had a coattail following mentor relationship with that person.
That's excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is next for you, sir, Adam Pressman, for this year, for 2014? Projects you're working on, goals that you have your eyes set on? What is in the pipeline for you?
Oh, that's easy. And I'll tell you, anybody that you know, when you can look them in the eye and see that they're convicted, the other thing is they will quickly be able to tell you exactly what you're doing. I am building crowdfund Roundup to remove, not reduce, remove the risk of startup investing. There is between $3 and $30 trillion, depending upon who you ask, out there in the world ready to come into your communities to build wealth, to build opportunity. It's not going into startups. Startups perceived as risky. Crowdfund Roundup, and Shawna has been a part of that. My friends that I'm working with now have been terrific to help me. It's like I said, you have to surround yourself with the right people to help me build an organization that the next 2 years I'm going to sell, because I know the limit of the financial expertise. And so I think it's going to be so big, it needs to be moved into the realm of the organizations. And that's pretty much my goal for the year and most of the next, to get where we are seeing startup go from 85% failure to 85% success.
Oh, that'd be fabulous.
The right crowdfund, the right capital formation model. Crowdfunding isn't new. I don't think it is. It's called patronage, and it's about 700 years old. And so all we're doing is what Mozart did to get his paycheck. He lived at the emperor's house. He ate the emperor's table because he made the emperor music that the emperor liked. And that kind of effort. Remember, I exist to serve somebody by doing something. When you can go to the people you exist to serve and say up front, listen, I want to help you, but I need capital. Can you give me a few bucks? And then I'll make it worth your while. And it's not just $10 here and a T-shirt there. It's really meaningful crowdfunding is what's going to be the dominant capital formation model, building wealth and opportunity in this country in the next 10 years. I stake my life on it.
Wow, that's excellent. So if somebody were to be interested in joining your vision, how does one find out about more about you and your projects?
You can, if you Google Adam Pressman, you'll probably find me. But I encourage you to look up not just me, because as I said, it's not about me. It's the teams I've been able to put together. Either Leadership Shape, which turned 10 years old last August, and gave me the mid-company crisis to go out and instead of buying a little sports car, to create a new company with my friend Shawna and Bill and a few of us, and to build a crowdfund roundup. And if you're interested in crowdfunding, of course, check out crowdfund roundup, home of the crowdfunding guarantee. And I think that's probably the best way to connect with me in a way that's meaningful for entrepreneurs. We've got lots of resources available. We're trying to help you out, because if you get successful, it all spreads around. As I said, social capital is everything.
That's awesome. So everybody out there, I will be putting in more information on Crowdfund Roundup, how to connect with them, the website, more information on their mission, and certainly if you're interested in connecting with Adam on LinkedIn, because I think he has the coolest title, it certainly caught my attention. So any last words, Adam, on some parting thought?
Find out quickly who it is you exist to serve. If you do that, everything else comes easy.
I love it. It's such a great theme. It's so clear that you're a servant leader in what you do, and it's evident that it's the right formula for you. It's reflective on the amazing success that you've had. So, Adam, thank you so much for sharing a half an hour of your time. I'm sure you're a busy man, and you could be sailing, right, or yachting, which I saw in your interest that you like to yacht. So with that, thank you so much for your time. Shawna and I are very appreciative of that. And again, we'll be posting information on how to get in touch with you. So thank you for imparting your wisdom. Wonderful conversation, and we wish you continued success.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adam.